Good afternoon. Welcome to my YouTube channel, My Life in Photographs. On my last video, I talked about a photograph that I took and sold to Associated Press. I forgot to tell you a few things about that photograph. Number one, I took it in 1977, April 1977. It's more like 49 years ago. At that time, I was working with Nancy Borman at Majority Report, taking photographs for the paper. Majority Report was an alternate newspaper. It was a woman's paper put out for women, by women. And it was one of many, many alternate papers that were around in the 60s and 70s. Not just in New York, but all over the country. There were more than 2,500 alternate newspapers being published. And those included political papers, papers for GIs, papers put out by student bodies that weren't sanctioned by their school, all types of papers. I worked for several of these papers. I worked for Majority Report. I worked for Night Magazine, which was a gentleman's magazine published in San Francisco. And that job, a friend got me, a friend who was visiting New York. Well, actually, she'd come to live in New York from San Francisco, and she was a pretty well-known writer for the alternate papers in California. I also worked for the Soho Weekly News, which wasn't really an underground newspaper. It was a pretty good features paper, published in the West Village. It basically covered the New York scene, a lot about art. Oh, what else? I also worked for a paper called the New York Daily Planet. That's a very interesting story. That paper was published by Mike Luckman. Mike Luckman was also one of the co-owners of Forbidden Planet. And that paper didn't last long. It was closed down by Warner because he called it the New York Daily Planet. And sort of as a joke, I wrote my articles under the name of Lois Lane. So when I did the first video, I had intended to start the beginning. I was looking for the pictures I did of sidewalk cracks when I was a kid. So far I haven't been able to come up with them. But I suddenly started talking about Aron Kay, the pie pictures. Now, Aron Kay is a notorious pier. He's a member of the Yippie party, and I think he is still pieing people today. In his history, he has pied the following celebrities: Jerry Brown, Governor of California; William F. Buckley Jr., E. Howard Hunt, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, and Phyllis Schlafly. Phyllis Schlafly was the person that he was pieing in the photograph that I took. Probably today, most people don't know who Phyllis Schlafly was. But about a few years ago, Aron just called me out of the blue to tell me that there was a television movie out about the Equal Rights Amendment, the fight to publish the Equal Rights Amendment, called the ERA. Now, that never got published. I mean, ratified. That would be the Equal Rights Amendment to the Constitution for equal rights for women. So, one of the reasons that it didn't become ratified was that Phyllis Schlafly, who is a conservative lawyer, worked actively against the passage. And she had her reasons, which was that she claimed that women would lose their privileges if they had equal rights. And one of the privileges she didn't want women to lose was serving in combat. She didn't think women should have to serve in combat. Another privilege that she didn't want women to lose was being a homemaker. Now, she was all about mom and apple pie. And Aron called to tell me that there was a made-for-television movie out about Phyllis Schlafly and the feminists who were supporting the ERA, called Mrs. America. He was tickled pink because he thought he was going to be in it, and then I said, well, maybe I'm going to be in it, and because I took the picture, but no, I wasn't in it. And actually, Aron wasn't exactly in it either, and it wasn't an apple pie. In the film, Phyllis gets pied by a cream pie. Well, this is Aron Kay at the women's meeting where he planned to pie Phyllis. And here he is dressed in a suit with a fake name tag, pretending to be a reporter, waiting for his chance, because this was a setup. It was set up by Nancy Borman. And Nancy Borman was the editor of Majority Report. She's a very smart woman, hardworking too. She ran the paper from 1971 until 1979. Now, Phyllis was at this meeting and she had no idea. See, there's Aron lurking in the background. She had no idea that she was going to be pied. So he sneaked up on her at the appropriate moment and he put the pie in her face. This is the picture I sold. Now this picture is in the public domain. I have seen this picture every time I've looked up Phyllis Schlafly. I've seen this picture, and I've seen this picture, which is a picture that I took of Phyllis wiping the crumbs out of her face after she was pied. And I have read that she had an eye injury, and actually hitting somebody with a pie is considered battery, and it could have been a court case about it. But Phyllis seemed to take it in her stride. I don't know if she'd ever been attacked before for her politics. Probably been ridiculed for them, because back then it was a very hot topic. Now, here is what Nancy put out. She put out the apple pie, because Phyllis was a big supporter of mom and apple pie. I worked for Nancy for a long time. I took lots of pictures for her, and I also posed for her pork chop. The pork chop is a photograph that goes with a column. Now, Nancy didn't want people to know that she wrote a column called Dear Yenta. Yenta was an advice column. And I guess I took her place here on the paper. The column was pretty funny. So that is what happened. Now, as I said, I was going to start at the beginning, but this is the middle. One time I had submitted one of my manuscripts to an agent, and she called me with some advice. And she said, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Well, that's just great. But the thing is, when you are a person such as me, who knows the beginning, knows the middle, and knows the end, sorta, not the, what do they call that? Not the final curtain. I don't know that yet. But it all gets mushed up in your mind. the beginning, the middle, and the end. They just like become blended into one story. So I'm going to be telling you the story. Stretches from a long time. The New York photographs, the published photographs, the unpublished photographs, the family photographs. Now bear in mind, when I started taking pictures, there was no digital cameras, none whatsoever. And a lot of people took camera photos of their families with their own pictures, their own cameras, and took them to the drugstore to be developed. And they sometimes were in little books. And then for a really nice portrait of your child or a wedding, you went to a studio and had a studio photographer take your picture. So this is all I'm going to talk about today. As you may have guessed, I don't know how to edit video. I basically always have been a still person, but I know I'm going to have to learn, and I have a friend helping me now. His name is Tenzin, and I want to give a thank you out to Tenzin for his help, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.